So I want to kind of get into the mental health part of it, right? And I think that sometimes we don't talk about it enough. I mean, we know in the last couple of decades, we've been talking more about mental health wellness in this like kind of like world, right, of sports. For you all, and you all don't have to, I mean, tell personal stories, but did you see things where people, how do I want to say it, where we kind of try to self-enhance ourselves through outside tools that could be drugs or whatever it is, right? Where people want to kind of keep being on top, right? It's this idea that when the ACL or something happens, like where you tear something or you break something, and then it's like, well, I don't want this to quite be done yet. Did you all ever, I mean, witness that? And like I said, you don't have to tell personal stories, but just kind of that idea that people were unable to let it go, where they had to keep going because it did kind of encompass who they were. Did you all see that?
Yeah, I saw it at Michigan State with one of the male players, you know, but like I'm telling you, I was green, so I'm just sitting there like, dude, what is wrong with you? You know, looking at him, but he was, you know, number one in high school, get to Michigan State, he was doing good. Like they said, tore both his ACLs, you know, and then with guys, it was different, you know, because the next guy just come right in, but with girls, it was, you know, it's like, but he was, now that I look at it now, I know he was depressed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was just looking at him like, suck it up, like, let's go, you know. I tore my ACL, but I'm back. You can get, you know, you can come back. But it was more so, I guess, like, who was in his circle once again, because wasn't nobody there to just like say it's gonna be okay. You know, he just went down here. From there, he wound up leaving school and everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Anything where people? I mean, have you ever worried about that with your players? I mean, have you ever kind of been or suspected that it could be happening?
Yes, a
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
More than you actually would guess. Probably 90%. I would say that's probably too high. 89 now. But majority, I would say 60. About 60% of athletes go through something mentally. But sometimes we kind of think it's because of the game and what they're going through now. No, it's actually from other situations. They may have nothing to do with playing sports, may not have nothing to do with their family, could just have something to do with family or with friends. And sometimes those traumas come up and they reveal themselves in a certain type of way. So as a coach, you kind of want to push a guy to be their best selves, but sometimes you don't know what they're bringing to the court. And so you got to give them an opportunity to either them dump it all on you sometimes, but most of the time you got to go out and get help. And especially depending on what your resources are, making sure that help is meaningful and don't just check a box. There's a lot of times that you find a person or you talk about athletes or anyone that talk about mental health and it becomes, oh, let me check a box. Or it's a big phrase for us to use to say that we're getting help, and we're not getting help. We're having a conversation around the help. And it may be sitting out playing your sport, or it could be you can find solace in playing the sport, but what about when they're not playing? Right? It's no different than if you fall in love with drugs or with alcohol. In the moment, they're not drinking while they're playing the sport, but as soon as the game is over with, they may have a drink, right? And so what are you doing to help them cope? And a lot of times what happens is we're fearful for having a real conversation because we may expose ourselves, right? You may supposed to be somebody's rock and their support group, a part of their family, but at the same time, you could have done something to trigger them or hurt them. And sometimes those conversations are hard to have. You will find it more so when it comes to male. And I would say this, more so because it's based on my experience, but always when I got a young African-American male to play for me, they normally will project whatever trauma they got from other African-American males that have been in their life or have not been in their life, right? So for me, my relationships with my coaches meant so much more for me, right? Ironically enough, I did not know he was going to be here, but one of my coaches when I was in elementary, Coach Corey, right? He taught me how to tie my shoes, yes. Yes, he taught me how to tie my shoes. He would not let me practice unless I learned how to tie my shoes when I was alone. And so now, even with that, and I'm always grateful for him, right? But even that allows me to keep forcing my guys, hey, just do the small things the correct way, right? And so those lessons I learned early on helps me today, right? But those are the small things that we, like mental health-wise, just a simple conversation of reflecting to something about that for myself allows me to keep pushing. So those small things matter.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Please do.
And
thank you for sharing
to
that.
your point, Carlos, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about learning those intangible things and those life skills. which kind of helps, when you get older in life against some of those mental health challenges, because something simple as, learning how to tie your shoe, or learning how to get up in the morning because you're going to have a job one day, learning how to be on time. Those are all things, when you hear people say trust the process, that's really what it should be about. Learning how to do those things outside of the basketball court or off the field, that's going to help you once the game is over.
Yes. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Yes. I love this. And it's interesting too, because, I think about, you do have such a community within your sports family, right? So I guess I wonder if a person doesn't have that kind of instinctually in them, how do they reach out to community when that's over, right? Because I know with my boys, their sports family, they saw each other all the time. They did everything together. In college, they all stayed in the same same dorms. They went to all the parties together. They did everything together. So then, once that's kind of gone, how do you encourage people to find the right people to kind of reimagine that support group if they don't have it? Because everybody doesn't have a supporting mother that says, you got this, you can do it, it's okay. Everybody doesn't have that. So if they don't have it, how do you encourage people to? And I know, Dallas, in your field, maybe you have some insight on this. How do you encourage people to find the right people to be around to kind of help them through that process of reimagining?
I think for me, as you were talking, I was just thinking about building your village, right? Yeah. And I just saw something the other day, and it said, don't get too close to people on the sideline, because your kiddo could end up leaving that sport, and then it's awkward, or they're competitive. I'm like, absolutely not. It's these are our family we choose. These are the people who root for my kiddo now when he's in a different color uniform on the other side of the field, and would pick him up and take him with them home, whatever they needed to do. So just making sure those relationships are building on the sideline. You get to know their kids, you get to know where you can lean in and help out. We have some friends whose kiddos are troubled, let's say, right? Whether it's mental health or other issues or different traumas. And we can be that supportive adult for them. Yeah. And their families and their friends know that too, and those kiddos know that we can be that. And my husband coaches too, and it's hey, Coach Rao, and he still hugs all the boys going through the line and shaking hands and stuff. So I think for me, it's building that village and knowing who you can trust and knowing who's there, and also noticing, to Carlos's point, what's going on in that kid's life, noticing what's different about them. Are they not showing up the same way? They're not having the same when someone's not the same on the court or on the field, and being able to check in and be that listening ear that they need. Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question is, what are some signs, right? Because especially in, and I'm using sports, but we know this applies across the spectrum, right? But in the sport where, you are kind of encouraged to be tough, to kind of be able to handle it, to be able to go. What are some signs to look for? Because we all mask differently, right? And we know how to put it on. When you go to perform, I'm sure you guys can attest to this. When it's time to perform, you show up, even despite what may be going on internally or around you, right? When it's game time, you get ready. And so with that said, what are some signs you think that people can look for who are in that community, in that village surrounding that child or adult in that space? Annette, did you have anything? And then Yvonne, if you had anything.
Yeah, well, I coached high school girls. I coached boys. And for girls, girls are very chatty. So if you notice a girl that she's not talking as much, and she's starting to wear the same clothes, or she's not doing her hair, hygiene going down, then you obviously know something is going on. And trust and believe, one of those girls know, and they're going to tell you, So for me, I always had an open door policy to my girls for whatever. As hard as my mother was on me, I wasn't afraid to tell her nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because she was bring it here. The only way we're going to deal with it if you bring it to us, So, and my dad was right there in the house, but I'm telling you, that little midget was something different. But she always had that open door policy. And that's how I was with my daughters, my sons, my nieces. I work in the school now, and I let the kids know, if you feel bothered, if you having a bad day, if something's going on, just come tell me. So if you can get a kid to trust you, you're that's it. And I do security all over Saginaw, and as much as I bleed black and gold, I'm telling you, I bleed black. But the kids that come from Arthur Hill or Carlton, it don't matter where. If a kid see me, and then something is wrong, they're gonna come let me know. Because another kid probably say, "Oh, go ask baby, she wants," you know, because that's just how I was raised. Like you see somebody in need, you help.
Yeah.
And these athletes nowadays is so different than where we were. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of mental illnesses nowadays, but back in the day, it wasn't like that. It's like, get up.
Well, it was a whole community village that everybody could talk to each
That's
other's
right.
kids, and it was a little bit
now
different.
you have to tiptoe around so much, but like I said, it's just an open door policy. If you just watch a kid, you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add to that? Did you want to add anything, Vaughn?
Well, she was talking about girls, but I know boys are a little different. You know, I know with my own son, sometimes when he's just like, seems so frustrated and he's just acting out, and I'm like, you know, I used to be like, well, what's wrong with you? You know, but then I'm like, okay, something must be going on, you know, and then just kind of letting them do that and still, like she said, still have open arms, you know, because something's going on. If a kid is doing that, if they're out of control emotionally, you know, and sometimes that happens on the field, and, you know, sometimes you see the parents, you're like, oh, no wonder.
I know. That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
But that can be a point, too. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Anybody else want to add anything? I promise that wasn't me. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So kind of a classic sport-related sign is certainly the trust. You can see kids acting out or being quiet, but just from a competitive standpoint, the athlete who competes incredibly hard in practice, is incredibly coachable, wants to do everything to please the coach and be a great teammate, and then when the game comes, they can't perform. They don't trust their abilities when they get into the game. They're a shell of themselves when they play. It is one of the most common mental barriers to athletes. At the extreme, it's the yips. If you've ever seen a baseball player who can't throw it, right? You can't throw it to first base, right? So, but what that is typically is the perfectionist athlete, right? The athlete, and we can categorize them as the over-motivated underachiever. And the underachiever comes from the fact they're just not performing how they want to perform, and they should perform well because they're working harder than everyone. Well, I can tell you that if someone's working that hard and when the lights come on, they're not performing, it's not because they don't want to, or it's not because they're not working hard enough. There's something else going on, and that's when they need a coach like Carlos, you know, because everything he says, I'm like, hey, I'm not, you know, my kids could play for him, right? Like that's, you know, that's what you need, because that's what's going to help you get into that, you know, that trusting process of playing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So how have you found ways to stay connected to sports, or kind of stay in that realm? Or I know you talked about like your children, your son playing, and then of course you coach, you do. But how have you kind of stayed in that to kind of keep that fire going? You know, because I'm gonna tell you something. I mean, like I said, I'm super competitive. Anybody knows me knows I'm competitive. We play card games, whatever it is. I want to win. I slam it down on the table. I'm super competitive. But with that said, it's like, you know, I also understand it's a balance. So I appreciate you guys reminding me that. But when you're in that and that's done, you still need that drive, right? And I'll give an example really quickly, and I want you guys to chime in. So my second son, the one that kind of struggled, he struggled a bit with that ending because he played 6 years in college, because that was 1 year when it was COVID, and then he had like a senior year. So he played. I was like, is he ever going to get out of this school? He was still there. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so he's playing. And then when it ended, he just kind of retreated. I mean, he went into the dark and just was in his apartment. He wasn't responding. My kids, anybody knows my kids, we talk a lot. So for him not to talk back, I'm like, okay, no, let me go into the school. You know, I'll come up there and find you know, what's going on. And so then now he's an MMA fighter. He started playing MMA. So he wanted to continue to get that thrill or something. I don't know. I don't understand it. So I want to, like, how did you all kind of find that next step, you know, to kind of keep that going, so to speak? Because I would imagine you still enjoy some parts of that, right? That feeling of the celebration. I mean, don't you still enjoy it, right? And so if it's a part of your life, most of your life, how did you do that? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. This may not necessarily answer the question of how you looking for it, but
No, however.
for me, I guess I haven't stayed connected. Like once I realized that I was done, I accepted that. And now I'm not saying that there wasn't a struggle disconnecting. There was a struggle for a couple years, but once I began to reinvent myself and I learned new skills, I went back to school, got a master's degree, figured out, my focus and where I wanted to go in life. I put that in my pastime, and I have a new focus and a new drive now that I seek some of those same thrills from, but it's just in a different setting, which I work in education now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
So it's still
that's
reward.
what works for me.
Okay.
I found a different reward in a different arena.
No, I appreciate that, because the idea that you just kind of see, I'm good at pivoting, right? If life is giving me something else, I'm good with that. So it was really hard for me to understand how come he couldn't pivot, right? And what do you do to help somebody that can't quite pivot? And so, thank you for sharing it. Does anybody else want to add to that? No.
I think it's just the same thing for me. It's just I love to compete, and so for myself, when I got done playing football, then I've tried to find a way for me to continue to compete, but then also love what I do. So it was going to be law school or try to be a doctor. Yeah, my bio grade wasn't good, so I was not going to be a doctor. So, but I love competing by talking, right? Being able to try to articulate myself and get a win. And so that's where debate came in at. And so then while I was debating, I was still competitive, because it's a mind game. You got to be able to not only articulate yourself, but also do great research. Then that led me to be persuaded to then go to law school. Then you go to law school, then now you're competing in moot court, mock trials, right? Then you get a chance to work a couple cases. Then I worked as assistant prosecutor in Midland County. But at the same time, I was still coaching. And then coaching ultimately at any level is to me, besides being a player on the field, is like the ultimate when it comes to competing. Because it's not only about yourself being great, right, being talented as a coach, but then also your ability to lead men or lead women, but then also be able to articulate, but then also trust your eyes when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to doing the scouting report, right? Like you got to find pride in that. So every single day, a lot of times if you see him, at least for college basketball, you see that coach that's not the head coach standing up all the time, yelling, is most likely 9 out of 10 is probably that person's scout. Right, because that person put in all of the work in, so you find a way to compete there, right? So for myself, I compete at everything. I found a way, I found my love, and just continuously find a way to achieve that through competition, but at the same time finding a way to grow, right? Well, with all my time, my talents, and my gifts, use them as much as I can, as frequently as I can, in order for me and my family to be successful.
No, I appreciate that. Anybody want to add to that? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead first, please. Yeah.
Everybody can talk.
I'll just say, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm still kind of learning and growing and figuring out what is next for me and finding that thing. But what happened organically for us as a family was we only have one son. He's an only child. And a lot of my focus just naturally shifted to him. He was growing. Sports is a huge part of his life, which makes it a big part of our life. That's how it works. And, he's maybe I'm biased, but he's very talented. He's very gifted, and we keep really busy. Like, he's in 2 different travel teams and then 3 sport athlete in high school. Like, it's a lot. And that's kind of what we did. Like, it shifted from me with the focus to him. And that sounds really unhealthy to say it out loud, but it's also like, buddy, are you good? But he is his best self when he's busy. And dude, you need to rest today. He's like, no, he's YouTubing. I see the looks, right? He's YouTubing stuff, then he'll go outside and he'll do it. And then he'll come back. I'm like, you've got to rest, buddy. So that's kind of where it went for us, and me, I guess, is, shifting to him, supporting him. So that's where I think I was talking to some of the fellow panelists. Like, my thing is, what's next for me, after he's done?
Right,
I don't even know. I'm sideline team mom, booster rep. What's next for me? Who am I going to be after he's done and his jersey's off?
Yeah.
And that's a real thing for me.
Oh, that's a real thing for so many people. I mean, being a parent, and as you talked about, different roles and stuff. I mean, you do have to kind of reimagine who you are. Because people always ask, when the boys moved out, are you going to be sad? I was just fine. I was just fine with them going on a little bit. I was just fine. But I do witness people who really struggle with that. And for me, it was like, that's a natural part of life, right? They're supposed to get older, go live their life, and you support them and love them and kind of we're friends now, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I'm okay with that. They don't eat up all my food. You know, I can keep stuff how I want it. I'm okay with that. And then when they come home, it's a joy. We miss each other, but I know people who struggle with that when their kids, when it all ends, because they do kind of take on that identity of playing through the kids, so to speak. Not saying you're doing that, but it can become an unhealthy thing
You
at
get
times.
that competition spirit though through them,
Yeah.
right, and those relationships and seeing what they're going through too, and it just
Yeah.
you can't help but kind of reminisce a little bit and live
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit vicariously through them. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Feels like
Josh,
it
did you
for
want to
sure.
add anything?
So yeah, I just want to share a story. First of all, the competitive nature, like I'm a very competitive person, right? So I love to win. Like,
We
so
can
just
all
so
play
you know,
Monopoly
but
together.
but I want to share a
No,
story
we don't want to
of,
play Monopoly.
you know,
Space.
this is a conversation I had with 7 of the Saginaw Spirit guys. So I did some work with them in the fall, and I asked them the question: is winning why you play hockey? And of course they say, you know, all of them, like, yeah, that's why I play. I said, okay. Well, then if I told you I have the formula that you will win every single hockey game that you will play for the rest of your life, do you want it? They're like, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I said, okay, so you sure you want it? Yeah. I said, go play 6-year-olds. You'll win every game. And they'll say, oh, that's crazy. I said, it's because winning is not why you play. Do you play every game to win? Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But now tell me why you play. Well, it's a challenge, and it's a goals, and you know, teamwork and camaraderie, and it is fun, and it's, you know, hard, and we like over, you know, all that kind of stuff. So they came up with that. So I think it's an interesting take, because when an athlete, when winning is why they play, they have a hard time transitioning. When they play to win and play the right, you know, do all those things, I think they have an easier time transitioning into the next phase.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good perspective.